Alright, so here I am at the spot where I grabbed soil from, right up on the bank of this river. You see the minnows down there in the water? There's a glare on the screen, so I don't know, but there's minnows in the water over there. And the reason that I come down here to get soil, the reason I walk a quarter mile is because this is the best soil for a few reasons. One, there's a waterfall about a half mile upstream, and that oxygenates the water, and all the minerals that get rubbed off the rocks, they make their way down here in the form of silt. Now, very often this bridge right here will flood, and so all those minerals, all the oxygenated water, all the microbial life, it finds its way up here on top of this ridge. And you can see various kinds of plant life up here. And so it's very fertile soil. The main species that I'm looking for is the common one over here, stinging nettle. It is the most nutritious plant on the planet. It is edible once you remove the nettles. It's very nutritious, but it's also very nutritious for the plants. So when I come back here in the summer, the stinging nettle will be knee high to waist high, and it'll be covered. So I can harvest a good amount of stinging nettle now and turn it into fertilizer. I can also do it midsummer, but at the end of the year when this dies and composts, it becomes a very nutritious layer of earth. And so I'm gonna take, not only am I gonna take this dirt and put it in my garden, but I'm gonna harvest as much of this stinging nettle to turn into fertilizer. This is the area that I've been getting my soil from, and you can see this here. This is a game trail. This is where I've been digging. As you can see, all that. So this is where I've been getting all my soil from. There are no rocks in this soil. This is pure natural ocean compost. Forest compost. Pure compost. Years and years and years of compost. Even better, it's this stuff right here called stinging nettle. One of the most nutritious plants for both humans and just in general. And you can see they call it stinging nettle because all these little things are stingers. Damn thing won't focus. Anyways, handle this with gloves or you will be sorry. I don't even handle poison ivy with gloves. You will regret it if you don't. Anyway, see all that white stuff that looks like hairs? Those are not hairs, those are stingers. So what I'm collecting these to ferment them. And I'll show you that process because I'm going to make fertilizer. There is no reason to be using petrochemicals. The Miracle-Gro, that's just a brand. Miracle-Gro type fertilizers are derived from oil. There was no reason for that. Those chemicals, they kill the life of the soil, all the microorganisms. There is no reason to be using animal feces. Or as a lot of farms are now doing, using human feces. Yeah, they're using the pelletized products from waste treatment plants, and there is no reason for that. Feed plants to other plants. That's how nature was intended. Think about this. This whole area was covered with stinging nettle, but I made sure to get here before it grew to waist height, knee height. This stuff, when winter comes along, it dies and decomposes, and then more springs up, and then dies and decomposes, and more springs up, and so on and so forth. For however long that this stinging nettle was here, for however long this forest was here, and there's not a single malnourished plant in my entire circumference. Look at this. You spot me a malnourished plant, and guess what? They're all fighting. They're all fighting for resources. Spot me a malnourished plant, I'll give you my entire life savings. There you go. Look, there's even some pretty purple flowers down there, which I would not dare venture to harvest with all that stinging nettle. People are retarded. Alright, now for the second component in my fertilizer. Blue corn. 5-pound bag of it. This is what my desk looks like. It's just my seeds and stuff. For another like week or something like that. And then once I've planted everything, all this stuff gets organized and put away. But for about a month to 2 months out of the year, my desk just looks like this. These are all unopened packages of seeds. Buckwheat from last year. I even save empty packages and all, just everything. When you buy seeds from some companies, they send you like flyers, information, and I save it all. These are all packages that haven't been opened. These are all the opened ones, and I reorganize it at the end of the year. Drop my container. Hold on. So I'm going to be mixing. I haven't decided. I have to use a trash can. I don't have any 55-gallon drums that aren't being used, so I get a trash can. I don't know how many gallons it's going to be. It's going to be anywhere between 35 and 50 gallons of fertilizer that I'm making. Hold on. So I'll use, this is a quart, so I'll use a pint of corn, and this is the second component in my fertilizer. What am I doing? Well, I should have more water, but I drank it all. I can always get more. I'm sprouting these. Wow, it almost filled it up. I'm sprouting these. They'll drink a lot of water. As soon as they start sprouting, I put them in a blender and I chop them up. The reason I do that, you ready? This corn has a lot of sugars in it, so that's a carbohydrate source. And when you sprout seeds, it has enzymes and nutrients that the seed releases for the initial stages of growth. So when this thing sprouts, I'm going to put it in a blender, and then I'm going to put it into my, it's called AACT, actively aerated compost tea. So the compost has microbes in it, and the microbes have to feed on something. Well, they're going to feed on the fermented stinging nettle and the carbohydrates from this. There's going to be enzymes. It's the equivalent of steroids. And I'll add some aloe. I'll talk about that later, because that's the third component. When this sprouts, I mix it all and I aerate it. All three elements of my fertilizer, I only do it once a year, are derived from sources are plant-based. No feces, no petrochemicals, none of that stuff. Plant-based fertilizer. Okay, now the next part, preparing the sprouts. Now they're not as sprouted as they should be. You can see they're just starting to sprout now. Anyways, I'm trying to extract the enzymes, and the sugars inside of this corn will provide carbohydrates for the bacteria that's going to be from the soil sample. And this is aloe that I cut from inside from my plant collection, so everything is all natural. I'm feeding my corn, I'm feeding it corn and aloe and stinging nettle. Anyways, I'll extract all this with a knife, and I'll grind it up slowly. I'm not gonna hold this thing down on full blast. That's dangerous. I'm not gonna hold this thing down on full blast until it's done. I'll tap it, tap it, tap it, tap it, tap it. I'm just trying to extract what's in here, because I'm gonna put it in a bag full of water and bubble it. Now, the thing about this, I don't know how much to use. I don't want to. This has something in it called salicylic acid. This aloe. Many nutrients beyond that, but I'm after the salicylic acid. That's the face care. You know, people use Proactive and they put Proactive on their face. Don't do that. Use aloe if you want salicylic acid. I don't know the concentration, but use aloe. Salicylic acid affects a hormone in plants called auxin. Auxin is it affects all parts of the plant. The stem growth, the fruit growth, fruit or whatever, the leaf growth and the root growth. But too much salicylic acid will actually decrease the amount of auxin that is produced. So less is more. This is what I cut off, this is what I'm using. I'll eventually dilute this to about 20 gallons of water, so you can see that it's not going to be very concentrated. So let me get that done. The corn with aloe and some water, just a little bit of water to help it mix up. I'll show you how I do the last one. Hold on. Like I said, I don't want to run the blades for too long because it'll heat everything up. A few seconds, and then you can mix it yourself. Oops, got stuck. And it's just gonna look like mash, plain and simple. This is fertilizer for my plants. All right, here's the next step. Now I forget the exact numbers. Here's a compost bag. If you buy a compost kit, that's pretty much what I have here. You could go on Amazon, buy them for cheap. I got a compost bag, a Home Depot bucket, a stone. They're cheap. I forget the exact numbers. I think 6 months is bacteria. Compost that's less than 6 months old is bacterial. Compost more than 6 months old is fungal. Riley, get up. Get out. No. No, Riley. I left the garden door open. So I'm just going to collect whatever's on the surface here, and then I'm going to collect some stuff that's been there for about 2 years. This is some stinky stuff. Ugh. Thirsty, Dita? No, keep animals away from this. Fermented stinging nettle. Looks like there's some mold growing on the top. Whatever. The way I know it was ready is when I stirred it. There's still some bubbling. I don't know if the camera picks it up. That means it's not completely fermented, but it's good enough. I'm tired of smelling it. Step 1, dump it into a new container, filtering out as much sediment as possible. Step 2 will be pouring it back and forth to kind of aerate it. I want to get some oxygen into this before I spray it. And then I'll grab a funnel and a coffee filter, and I'll filter it out so that there's very little sediment, because I'm going to have to run this through a sprayer. So they advise about a 10-to-1 dilution solution, give or take. There's actually a marker there that says 5-to-1, so whatever. I just use a filter, a funnel with a coffee filter, and hold on. And I have a lot left over, but that's going into the soil drench. So I'll spray this. I don't know how many times I'm going to need to make a solution, but that's all you need. All right, now this stuff, because I'm trying this on leaning the phone on something, making sure I could do this. This stuff smells terrible. Now you can see the flies just going right to it. You can see that this is about you can see the levels. I don't know if you can catch them on camera, but it's right here. I'm doing like a 4 or 5-to-1 dilution. I got to keep that in my head what I'm doing. I already have the stone in there. This is my compost bag with a little bit of the soil that I grabbed from the swamp and some compost. It's just fungal and bacterial cultures. There's some minerals in there, which that'll add to. But what I'm also going to put inside of this bag, and I'm going to make sure that I'm dumping this mash. Make sure that I'm dumping it all the juice in the liquid. That's the aloe and the carbohydrates. Make sure it goes into the mix. It can seep through the bag. That's perfectly fine. Another thing I hear people commonly use is, you can look it up. There's different reasons for different ones, but I hear potatoes. I I hear everything. So that's that. I guess I'll just use this clamp right here to make sure it doesn't. There, no, it won't fall in. But this nasty stuff, yuck. This is going in there. Oh, this stinks. But look how green that is. All that stuff. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Perfect. So now I know this is somewhere around, this is just less than, probably about 4 3/4 gallons. Maybe less, probably 4 gallons once I take all that stuff out. And you can see it bubbling, right? Oh yeah. So that's it. And then I just keep the bugs out. And I'll be back tomorrow morning. This thing runs low energy. What is it? I don't even know what it says. Yeah, there's no electricity probably on the pamphlet. Anyway, it's easy. And I have a whole kit that I could put in a 55-gallon drum, but this is easier, like more manageable. As you can see, I just keep everything in a... Anyways, that's about it. I'll pour it tomorrow. Alright, this is all I have left. Now remember, this is already about 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 diluted, so I'm gonna do that again, 4-to-1, somewhere between 4-to-1 and 5-to-1. For my indoor plants, I use RODI water. But for my outdoor plants, I use the same water that runs through the sprinkler. I really don't care. And I've got a cup so that I don't spill everything in one spot. Let's take a walk. This is my mom's area with herbs. That's my area. Let's take a walk. See the garden from afar. This is the old guy. He needs help up the steps. Come on, buddy. Come on. He just likes me to touch his back while he's walking up the steps in case he falls. Go. "14 years old, I think." So, there's the garden from afar. Remember those flowers I talked about early on that was just greenery? Well, look, they're doing their thing. And they are in abundance. So what I have going on here is simple. I already put it on flat ground. I already fertilized or watered these. Now I put the fertilizer in between the rows. I didn't put the fertilizer directly on it. I don't know what type of bacteria I brewed up, and I don't want it on the food that I'm eating. Especially, you have to be mindful of root vegetables. So I put it in the middle, because essentially what's going to happen is these roots from these plants are going to move out towards the row in here, the space that I fertilized. And what I didn't fertilize, like add nutrients directly. I added enzymes, I added bacteria, I added fungus. Yeah, I added some carbohydrates for them, and I did add some nutrients with the stinging nettle, but for the most part, everything that's in between those rows is to break down the substance there. Plus, the roots that grow out here, the roots that are growing out here, they some of the roots, I think it's calcium if I'm not mistaken, can only be absorbed by new root growth. Yes. By new root growth. So if there's old roots and I pour calcium in the area of the old roots, the plant won't absorb it. It has to be new root growth. So I have this cup so that I don't overspill. But I just apply it to the places that it needs to go. And I wish I had a control group, but I'm putting it everywhere. And especially, like, half of that bucket's gonna go to the cornfield. Again, I just pour it on in between the rows, not directly on the plants. And that's all I do. That's my fertilizer for the year, and that's it. Just speed up the breaking down of these nutrients that are there from the roots from last year, from the leaf litter, or whatever I've put there. Look at that. From these two idiots. They got in through a hole from a tree that fell. I just planted this stuff. I literally just planted it 2 days ago. Even though this video will come out after the fact. Luckily, because he did the Macarena right over here, he was two-stepping through my garden. But anyways, this is my dilution, and I am doing what's called foliar feeding. Foliar feeding is about 20 times as effective, 20 times more effective than soil drenching. The reason being is the minerals and nutrients are absorbed immediately by the stoma on the plant, immediately, and it doesn't have to feed it up. It's on site. I have read, though I don't know what rigorous studying concludes, but I have read that foliar spray, it's fermented, therefore it's anaerobic, meaning so aerobic is an oxygen-rich environment, anaerobic is an oxygen-deficient environment. This can prevent many diseases, and one of the things that is caused by not rotating my bean crops is I will get a rust on my beans. Get him! Get him! Get him! Anyways, hopefully this stuff will prevent beans, because if I spray them with neem oil early enough, it prevents a majority of the rust. So that's the thing. Another thing is, don't spray this stuff on things that are flowering or anything that I would be eating on. There's a potential for salmonella or E. coli to be here. However, I don't use animal feces, so my risk is greatly reduced. They say you should spray the undersides, but I'm literally, less is more, meaning 2 sprays is more than I would have had 2 sprays is more than I would have, because I would have none at all. I want to spray those so bad. Yeah, I'll spray these too. You can see the difference because they were sitting in the container too long, lacking nitrogen among other nutrients, but lacking nitrogen, so the leaves are light green, but the new growth from when it got put into the soil is dark green, and that's a good thing. But you know, there's different nutrients, mobile and immobile, and there's just different kinds of nutrients, let's put it that way. So the main purpose for this is for the beans. I'll spray these beans later because I have to dig through them, but I can also give an update on my system. Look at the corn doing nicely. I just got the beans in today. So I'll be planting new sets of beans around these sunflowers. And this nutrients should do well to help prevent disease, as well as add to whatever deficiencies. This one and the next one is the only corn that's not doing very well, see, but it's okay. This one has about 5, the other one 3. It's okay, and a little bit will go a long way with this. So I don't rotate my fields. I'm trying something new. I understand field rotation, trust me. That if I get bean rust one year, I'm likely to get it another year